air, and ether. There are also 5 subtle elements: smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. इन्द्रियाणि दश श्रोत्रं त्वग्दृक् वाक्करौ चरणौ मेढ्रां पायुदशम उच्यते. The senses for acquiring knowledge and the organs for action. Number 10, namely the auditory sense, the sense of taste, the tactile sense, the sense of sight, the sense of smell. The active organ for speaking, the active organs for working, and those for traveling, generating, and evacuating. मनोबुद्धि अहंकारा चित्तम इति अंत आत्मकम चतुर्दलक्ष्यते भेदो वृत्त्यः लक्षण रूपाय. Manaha, the mind, buddhi, intelligence, ahankara, ego, chittam, consciousness, iti, thus, anta atmakam, the internal subtle senses. Chaturda, having 4 aspects. Lakshate is observed, Vedaha, the distinction. Vritya, by their functions. Lakshana Rupaya, representing different characteristics. The internal subtle senses are experienced as having 4 aspects in the shape of mind, intelligence, ego, and contaminated consciousness. Distinctions between them can be made only by different functions, since they represent different characteristics. The 4 internal senses or subtle senses described herein are defined by different characteristics. When pure consciousness is polluted by material contamination, and when identification with the body becomes prominent, one is said to be situated under false ego. Consciousness is the function of the soul, and therefore behind consciousness there is soul. Consciousness polluted by material contamination is called ahankara. Om Agnanatiminandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swamrupa Kadah Mahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamanam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathavitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakavitamsya. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanto Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Raja Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhayo Vaishnavebhayo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Quoting to us again. Mano buddhi ahankara chittam iti anta atmakam chatudha lakshate bhedo vritya lakshana rupaya. The internal subtle senses are experienced as having four aspects: the shape of mind, intelligence, ego, and contaminated consciousness. Distinctions between them can be made only by different functions, since they represent different characteristics. Yeah. So this chapter is about fundamental principles of material nature. We see in the beginning of the chapter what is the benefit of hearing Sankhya. Right? Sankhya is an analytical study. What is that benefit? That as we learn about these different elements, what do we get by learning about these different elements? So it's mentioned in the earlier verses that by understanding different elements, ultimately we'll understand Atma, right, which is eternal, Satchidananda. It's the infinitesimal part of the Supreme Lord, right? So by understanding Lord's external energy, even the marginal energy, which is Atma, will be understood. The symptom of Atma is consciousness, but that consciousness, when it is covered by false ego, ahankara, it is contaminated consciousness, right? Or conditioned consciousness, right? So, and that is explained further in this verse, where earlier in the 9th verse, Devotee is asking a question. Can you explain the difference between Prakriti and Pradhan, right? Where what is Pradhan? Pradhan is a more like a Mahatattva, the total manifestation of all the material elements, total conglomeration of all the material elements, the 24 material elements, is Pradhan. That is unmanifested, avyakta, that is unmanifested, right? It is eternal, aggregate of the three modes. That is material nature. Tribi gunamayi bhavai, ebi sarvamidam jagatam, mohitam nabi janati mamebhyam paramavaya. The three modes of material nature, right? Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, right? The aggregate of these three modes of material nature is Pradhan. And Pradhan is the cause of Prakriti, the manifested stage of existence, right? So one is the unmanifested stage of existence, which is the Pradhan, and the manifested stage of existence is Prakriti. So Pradhan, when it's activated, in the unactivated stage, it is called Pradhan. When it is activated by the element of time, it becomes Prakriti, right? So that's the distinction. When it is activated by the addition of time, it becomes Prakriti. And it consists of the cause and the effect, right? Asat and Sat, both. the cause, the sat, and asat, the effect, atmakam, and it is undifferentiated yet has variety. Avishesham, Visheshasavat. So then, this Pradhan, the further the 24 elements are described in these words, 12th verse to 14th verse, as okay, what are those 24 elements? And those 24 elements is described that there are 5 gross elements, right? Which are the 5 gross elements? Bhumi, Apa, Nala, Vayu, Kama, Mana, Bhumi, Apa, Nala, Vayu. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. There are the 5 gross elements. But then there are the 5 subtle elements. The 5 subtle elements is smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. Or the sense objects. The tanmatra, the 5 gross elements, the tanmatra, the 5 subtle elements, and then the 10 senses, the senses for acquiring knowledge, and the organs for action, the number 10, right? So they are then further distinguished as, okay, which are the senses for acquiring knowledge? The auditory sense, which we can hear, the sense of taste, right? The tactile sense, walking sense, the sense of sight, and the sense of smell, right? Then and the 5 active organs. Organ for speaking, the active organs for working, and those for traveling, generating, and evacuating. So in total that becomes 10, and the earlier 5 gross and 5 subtle is 10, so that is 20. And then in this particular verse, the last 14th verse, is the internal subtle senses are experienced as having 4 aspects: the mind, the intelligence, the ego, mentioned here as ahankara, that ego is referred as ahankara, false ego, and the contaminated consciousness covered by material energy. It's called contaminated consciousness, where consciousness is identifying completely with the body. It is conditioned consciousness or contaminated consciousness. The distinctions between them can be made only by different functions, because they are very subtle, right? They are very subtle, so they cannot be directly seen as gross elements. So by their function, one can know all the distinctions, that, oh, this is the function of the mind, is a repository. This is a function of intelligence. It's the one which discriminates between what is stored in the mind as pursued in the mind. So this is like heat. This is by touching this it will be hot. By touching this will be cold. So that is stored in the mind, and intelligence discriminates. Okay, or if we touch this, it will be cold. If we touch this, it will be hot. Right. And then ahankara. Right? Prakriti kriya minani gune karmani sarvasva. Ahankara ityam hai. Bhinna prakriti. Ahankara ityam hai. Right. It's covered by ahankar, false ego, which is the most subtle. There is a false ego, and then there's a real ego. The real ego means I'm Atma, I'm the soul. But I'm forgetting that. That's why it's false ego. Right. And then the Atma itself, which is spiritual in nature, but it's infinitesimal, right? It's infinitesimal, very, very minute, has the same characteristics as the Supreme Lord, that is Sat, Chid Ananda, right? Full of eternality, full of knowledge, full of bliss. It's covered. And because it is covered, it is identifying with the body and it's experiencing the pains and pleasures of the body. And the body is feeling hot, it is the soul feels, oh, it's very hot right now. Right? Because it's identifying itself with the body. Body by itself cannot feel hot. Body by itself cannot feel cold. But the soul, which is the symptom of which pervades consciousness throughout the body, is experiencing the pains and pleasures of the body. Because otherwise the lump of matter by itself cannot experience that. Right? A lump of matter, whether it is in Alaska or Antarctica, where it's like, it's very, very cold, or it is in the urban, cannot experience. Nainam chindanti sasam, nainam dahati pavaka. The characteristics of the soul is mentioned. Right? It cannot be cut by weapons, cannot be withered by the wind, cannot be burnt by fire, cannot be moistened by water. But because it is identifying with the body, when the body is cut, this consciousness, which is pervading that particular part of the body, feels the pain of the cut. Right? And similarly, the sense of touch, when the body is feeling pleasure, the consciousness pervading that area temporarily feels pleasure. Right? So the pains and pleasures of the body is experienced by the pervading consciousness there, which is conditioned consciousness. Right. So, so that's the difference between Pradhan and Prakriti. So this particular verse, 12 to 14th words, is more about explaining about these 24 elements of Prakriti. Pradhan is the aggregate of all these 24 elements. But when it is activated by the element of time, it becomes Prakriti. And then we will see that further in that active stage of Prakriti, then the Lord glances on that and impregnates the living entities. Impregnates the living entities. Yeah. Okay, are there any questions or discussions on this? There we go. We can have further discussion time. Since this is a wonderful study, but can become complicated by these different terms. So we can try to.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam to everyone.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. So Prabhu, my question is that last time Mataji, Kalindi Mataji told that the glands on the material Prakriti, to the Lord or through Rama Devi. I need to know about that. I know earlier that Lord glance on the material pradhana or prakriti, but
Mhm.
last time Mataji mentioned that Rama Devi glance it. So what is the actual things? Can you little bit
Yeah,
explain about it?
wonderful. Yeah. So the Lord glances, but
Yes.
how is that glance carried? Like you want to do something, right? As a person,
Yes.
you want to do something. So your
Yes.
eyes want to glance on something, but then that vision of that eyes further carries out, right? You just have a desire to glance,
Yes.
but your desire is carried out by the super soul with the um, corresponding senses, right? So similarly, the Lord desires to glance, and that glance, no, means the Lord's just that the only difference is, no, means Lord is completely Satchidananda, right? So he can
Yes.
glance by his eyes, he can glance by any of his organs,
Yes.
but his desire of that glance is carried out by his energy, and
Yes.
he, his energy is Ramadevi.
Okay. So
His
that
energy is Ramadevi.
so
And that
Rama
glance
Devi.
further is also called as, no, means, when it comes in contact with Prakriti, right? Ramadevi is the agency which carries out, but when it comes in contact with Prakriti, that is Sambhu.
Okay. Okay. So Rama Devi is the consort of Mahavishnu.
One of the consort, yes.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu. I got it. Dhanyavad.
Yeah. Yep. Any other reflection on that particular point? Yeah. Any other question, discussion? Okay. So in these three verses, 12, 13, 14, ultimately, we and beginning with 10, we start hearing about characteristics and products of Pradhan, right? And further, we'll learn about characteristics of time and characteristics of Mahatattva and Chitta. Chitta means is consciousness, characteristics of false ego, and products of false ego in when it comes in contact with these three modes of material nature. False ego in Sattva and false ego in Raja, right? Mind, intelligence, and senses. Yep, so it's quite analytical and detailed in this chapter. Okay, any other discussions? So on this on this day, it's Ekadasi, Deva Uti Ekadasi. So the demigods are for 4 months, Chaturmasya, they're considered to be humans resting. And Devaseni Ekadasi, which started before 4 months of Chaturmas. Right. And so Dev Uti Ekadasi. Now, okay, the demigods are relieved from the vacation, and now they are in active duty. As such, also the demigods are in active duty, but no, it's in their state, they consider as going on a vacation for 4 months, and now they're back in action. So, and very nicely, it's falling on Thanksgiving Day. So we thank the Supreme Lord for all the mercy which the Lord has shown on us. ब्रह्मांड ब्रह्मित कोनो भाग्यवान जीव Guru Krishna prasada पाए bhakti lata bija. That by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, somehow we have come in contact with the spiritual master. Somehow we have come in contact with a process, right? Otherwise, Brahmanda Brahmite. Otherwise, we'll be wandering in one universe to another universe. But now, a process has been given to us by how we're connecting to this spiritual process of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, founded by his founder Acharya, his Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is connecting through various devotees to the Guru Parampara and giving us this timeless wisdom of Vedic literature propounded by our acharyas. Right. So let's thank and express our gratitude to the mercy bestowed on us by Guru and Krishna on this particular day, so that we at least are getting an opportunity to come out of this wandering, which we have been wandering for so many lifetimes. Yeah. There's Ekadasi Kirtan at the temple today in the evening, I believe starting at 5 o'clock. So you're most welcome to come to the Ekadasi Kirtan and be engaged in service over the Thanksgiving weekend and not get allured by the material energy which may want to take you to Black Friday or this Friday or that Friday. That's allurement of material energy, right? Instead, engage in the service of the Supreme Lord as much as you can over the 4 days. Hare Krishna. We'd like to thank you all, wish you all a happy Thanksgiving weekend. We'd like to offer the prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Shina Shingo Jaina Shingo Jai Jaina Shingo Prahladesh Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Ugra Veera Mahavishnum Jalantam Sarvato Mukham Narsingam Vishnam Badram Mityam Namami Aham. Narsingha Bhagwan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Today also happens to be the disappearance day of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj is the spiritual master of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And it's also beginning of the first day of Bhishma Panchak. The last 5 days of Kartik is celebrated as Bhishma Panchak, where you can remember the pastimes of Bhishma Pitamaha. Right, one of our Mahajana, one of our 12 Mahajana is Bhishma Pitamaha. Right, so it's celebrated as Bhishma Panchak, and to get full benefit, there are different levels of austerities which are performed in these 5 days of Bhishma Panchak. So that's also starting from today. And then Sunday is Ras Purnima, last day of Bhishma Panchak. And yeah, so we'll have a Ras Purnima feast on Sunday. You all are invited. We'd like to offer our obeisances to all of you. Bhagavan Chakalpatar Vaishakvasin Dubhaya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhaya Vaishnaveभ्यो Namaha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. God Hari Hari.
Thank you, Madhupati Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.